A simple mistake had turned what started as a regular shift into the most humiliating moment of Emma's life. Her hand trembled as she tried to clean the spilled wine off the expensive suit of Mr. Charles Harrington, one of the restaurant's wealthiest regulars. The entire dining room seemed to pause, conversations halting mid-sentence, all eyes on her. Emma could feel her face burning, the whispers and judgmental glances amplifying her embarrassment. Harrington stood up, visibly furious, his voice sharp and piercing. "Do you have any idea how much this suit costs? You probably couldn't earn its price even if you worked here for a whole year." Emma's heart sank as she lowered her head, tears beginning to form in her eyes. But what no one, not even Emma herself, realized was that someone powerful and influential was watching everything unfold from a quiet corner of the restaurant, carefully observing each detail. As Emma struggled to hold back her tears, Harrington continued his tirade, raising his voice to ensure everyone heard his disdain. "This is exactly why people like you should stick to jobs that suit your kind, cleaning toilets or mopping floors, where you can't ruin someone else's day." The restaurant manager rushed over, attempting to defuse the situation, repeatedly apologizing and promising immediate compensation. But Harrington wasn't satisfied. He demanded that Emma be fired on the spot. Emma's shoulders shook as she fought to suppress the sobs that threatened to escape, feeling small and powerless beneath the heavy gazes of diners around her. Yet unnoticed by everyone, including the enraged customer, the mysterious observer in the corner calmly folded his napkin, eyes narrowed, carefully evaluating Harrington's every word and gesture, waiting patiently for the right moment to intervene. Emma glanced desperately toward her manager, silently pleading for mercy, but all she saw was resignation and fear in his eyes. The pressure from a wealthy and influential client was too much, and Emma could see her dismissal coming. Harrington, sensing his dominance, continued to belittle her, openly mocking her incompetence and even making degrading remarks about her background. Emma felt utterly humiliated, forced to endure the barrage of insults and scornful laughter from Harrington's companions. Suddenly, a chair scraped loudly against the marble floor, causing a stunned silence to ripple through the restaurant. Every eye turned toward the corner table, where the quiet observer now stood with an air of undeniable authority. Emma's breath caught in her throat as she recognized the man, the city's well-known billionaire and philanthropist, Alexander Bennett. He strode calmly toward their table, his expression composed but carrying an unmistakable edge. Harrington's arrogance faltered momentarily as Bennett approached, his tone shifting from angry to forced politeness. "Ah, Mr. Bennett, I didn't notice you there. My apologies if our little misunderstanding disturbed your meal." Bennett's gaze remained unwavering as he replied evenly, "Actually, Mr. Harrington, the only disturbance here is your behavior toward this young woman. I've watched and listened carefully, and I must say, your actions were nothing short of disgraceful." Harrington's face flushed deeply, the room filled with palpable tension. Emma stood frozen, unable to move or speak, unsure whether this moment would lead to further humiliation or redemption. Bennett turned to Emma, speaking gently yet clearly. "Emma, isn't it? I saw what happened. Tell me, do you believe that spilling a drink warrants being degraded and losing your livelihood?" Emma hesitated, her eyes meeting Bennett's sincere gaze, suddenly sensing that everything was about to change in ways she could never have imagined. Emma swallowed hard, trying to steady her trembling voice as she finally spoke up. "No, sir, I don't think anyone deserves this for making a simple mistake." Her voice was soft yet clear, carrying a quiet dignity that resonated throughout the now silent restaurant. Alexander Bennett nodded slowly, turning his attention back to Harrington, his expression firm and unyielding. "You see, Mr. Harrington, that's called decency, something money apparently can't buy." The restaurant seemed to collectively hold its breath as Harrington's eyes darted between Bennett and the captivated audience around them, clearly uncomfortable being publicly challenged. "If you think humiliating someone who's serving you is a sign of power," Bennett continued, his tone unwavering, "you're mistaken. True power lies in the ability to uplift, not to degrade." Harrington's jaw tightened as whispers rippled through the diners, realizing he was rapidly losing control over the situation he had instigated. Visibly agitated, Harrington tried to regain composure, forcing a strained smile. "Mr. Bennett, surely this is just a misunderstanding. Perhaps you're unfamiliar with the incompetence some employees show in these places." Bennett's eyes narrowed slightly, his voice sharpening. "Incompetence? From what I've observed, Emma handled herself professionally under intense and unnecessary pressure. Your response, however, was utterly unprofessional." Harrington shifted uneasily, sensing the room turning against him, realizing his reputation hung precariously in the balance. Bennett turned back to Emma, addressing her directly. "Emma, how long have you worked here?" Emma nervously twisted her apron in her hands. "Almost 2 years, sir. I've always done my best." Bennett smiled gently, nodding with approval. "I believe you. Dedication like yours deserves respect and recognition, not humiliation." The sincerity in Bennett's words seemed to wrap around Emma like a shield, offering unexpected comfort. Bennett reached into his jacket and pulled out an elegant business card, handing it gently to Emma. His voice was calm, yet authoritative. "Emma, I'm always looking for dedicated and dignified people in my organization. If you're ever interested in working in an environment where respect is paramount, give me a call." Emma's eyes widened in astonishment, disbelief clouding her expression as she accepted the card, carefully clutching it like a lifeline. Harrington watched, stunned and silent, as Bennett turned back to him, concluding with clear finality. "Mr. Harrington, wealth doesn't grant the right to treat others poorly. I strongly suggest you reconsider your approach to people. Your character is defined far more by how you treat those who serve you than by your bank account." With that, Bennett gave Emma a reassuring nod, quietly turned, and walked back to his table, leaving Harrington speechless, the entire restaurant watching in awe. After Bennett sat down, the restaurant slowly returned to its normal hum, though now filled with quiet conversations about the scene that had just unfolded. Emma, still holding Bennett's card tightly, felt a surge of emotion, gratitude mixed with disbelief and hope. Her manager approached hesitantly, offering an awkward apology for not intervening sooner, but Emma barely heard his words. Her thoughts were completely consumed by the possibility of a new beginning. Meanwhile, Harrington gathered his belongings hastily, casting a resentful glance toward Emma before storming out, clearly embarrassed. As Emma returned to her duties, the atmosphere in the restaurant felt fundamentally changed. She caught patrons stealing curious and encouraging glances her way, sensing a newfound respect she had never experienced before. Across the room, Bennett quietly finished his meal, occasionally glancing toward Emma with thoughtful satisfaction, silently determined to ensure that today's moment of humiliation would transform into a catalyst for her brighter future. Later that evening, as the restaurant finally closed its doors, Emma slowly gathered her belongings from the staff locker room. Her mind replayed the day's dramatic events, particularly the surreal encounter with Alexander Bennett. The elegant business card he had given her felt almost unreal in her fingertips, the embossed gold letters reflecting softly under the dim lighting. Emma knew very well who Bennett was, one of the city's most prominent business figures and philanthropists, known for recognizing and nurturing hidden talents. Yet, despite her overwhelming gratitude, a part of her remained cautious, wondering if such an offer was simply born out of pity. However, as she stepped out into the crisp night air, Emma reminded herself that whatever Bennett's motives were, today marked a turning point, a rare opportunity to finally break free from the cycle of humiliation and invisibility she'd endured for so long. When Emma reached home, the small apartment was quiet and dark, a stark contrast to the chaotic shift she'd just left behind. She sat alone at her kitchen table, carefully placing Bennett's business card in front of her, contemplating her next move. Her phone buzzed softly, messages from coworkers checking in, showing support after witnessing the evening's dramatic events. But Emma's thoughts were elsewhere, focused entirely on the phone number printed below Bennett's prestigious company logo. Her heart raced with anxiety and anticipation as she considered what calling might mean, risking the familiarity of her current job for a chance at something better. After a long, reflective moment, she picked up her phone, took a deep breath, and dialed the number, knowing that hesitation could cost her the opportunity of a lifetime. The call connected and a professional voice answered promptly. "Alexander Bennett's office, how may I assist you?" Emma's pulse quickened, her voice initially uncertain. "Hi, my name is Emma Thompson, and Mr. Bennett gave me his card today. He mentioned a possible opportunity within his organization. The assistant's voice instantly warmed. "Ah, Miss Thompson, Mr. Bennett has been expecting your call. Please hold for a moment." Emma was startled by the immediate recognition, realizing Bennett had anticipated her decision to reach out. After a brief pause, Bennett's confident yet reassuring voice came on the line. "Emma, I'm delighted you called. Your professionalism and dignity today truly impressed me." Emma felt warmth spread through her chest at his sincere words, replying softly, "Thank you, Mr. Bennett. I wasn't expecting this, and I appreciate the opportunity you're offering me." Bennett continued, his voice gentle but decisive. "Emma, I've built my entire company around people who show integrity under pressure, who maintain grace even when others show none. Today you proved you're exactly the kind of person I value." Emma listened, barely believing the praise coming from such an influential figure. Bennett added, "If you're open to it, I'd like to invite you to our headquarters tomorrow. We can discuss positions that match your potential. No strings attached, just a chance to explore a brighter future." Emma's voice trembled slightly as she accepted the invitation, thanking him again before ending the call. After placing her phone down, she felt a surge of hope unlike anything she'd experienced before, knowing she had just taken the first step toward reclaiming her self-worth and building a life that reflected the respect she always deserved. The next morning, Emma stood nervously outside Bennett Enterprises, its towering glass facade reflecting the bright city skyline, making her feel even smaller than usual. She tightened her grip on the portfolio she'd hastily prepared overnight, filled with past references and notes she'd gathered to present herself professionally. Stepping inside the immaculate lobby, her heart pounded as she approached the reception desk, announcing herself hesitantly. "Hi, I'm Emma Thompson. I have a meeting scheduled with Mr. Bennett." The receptionist's immediate warm smile eased Emma's anxiety slightly as she responded, "Of course, Miss Thompson. Mr. Bennett informed us you'd be coming. Please follow me." Emma felt a fluttering in her stomach as she was guided toward the elevator, knowing this day could reshape her future entirely. The elevator doors opened onto a vast, sophisticated office space filled with bustling staff who moved purposefully, their quiet efficiency radiating professionalism. The receptionist led Emma to an elegant glass-walled office at the end of a long corridor, softly knocking before opening the door. Alexander Bennett rose from his sleek mahogany desk, warmly welcoming her inside, his genuine smile instantly reassuring her. "Emma, it's wonderful to see you again," he greeted, gesturing toward a comfortable chair. "I appreciate you taking this step to come here." Emma sat carefully, her fingers nervously playing at the edges of her portfolio as Bennett continued. "I wanted to meet personally because your reaction under pressure impressed me greatly. Tell me, what sort of position or career path truly appeals to you?" Emma hesitated briefly, then, finding courage, began to speak candidly about her dreams and ambitions, something she'd never dared to articulate openly before. As Emma shared her aspirations, her passion for people, her desire for meaningful, respectful interaction, and her dream to manage and mentor others, Bennett listened intently, his eyes never wavering from hers. His attentive silence encouraged Emma to speak with increasing confidence. "I've always believed," she said carefully, "that everyone deserves to be treated with dignity, no matter their status. Yesterday reminded me of why I want a chance to lead differently." Bennett nodded thoughtfully, impressed by the sincerity and maturity of her reflections. Leaning forward slightly, he responded, "Emma, leadership isn't about wealth or status. It's about character, resilience, and the capacity to inspire. From what I saw yesterday, you embody these qualities naturally." Emma's cheeks flushed slightly, the unexpected praise filling her with quiet pride. Bennett continued earnestly, "I'd like to offer you a position as part of my company's community relations team, a role dedicated precisely to promoting respect, inclusivity, and empowerment throughout our organization and beyond." Emma stared in stunned silence, momentarily unable to process Bennett's generous offer. The magnitude of this opportunity was overwhelming, far exceeding anything she had envisioned when she dialed his number the night before. Bennett, seeing her hesitation, added warmly, "Take your time to think it through. This isn't charity, Emma. This is recognition of your potential and strength of character, which you've clearly demonstrated." Emma looked into his sincere eyes, realizing this wasn't mere kindness. It was genuine belief in her abilities. Finally regaining her voice, she responded with quiet determination. "I don't need time, Mr. Bennett. This is exactly the kind of work I've dreamed of. Helping others understand their own value and treating them with the respect they deserve." Bennett smiled broadly, extending his hand warmly. "Then it's settled. Welcome aboard, Emma. Together, we'll ensure no one ever experiences what you had to endure again." Over the following weeks, Emma immersed herself fully into her new role at Bennett Enterprises, quickly gaining confidence and admiration from her colleagues. Every day brought opportunities to implement the very principles of dignity and respect she'd always valued deeply. Her past humiliations felt distant now, overshadowed by the meaningful work she undertook each day. Yet, despite her newfound success, Emma never forgot the painful experience at the restaurant, remembering it as a pivotal moment that shaped her future. One afternoon, as she led a company training session on workplace respect and empathy, Bennett himself quietly observed from the back, deeply impressed by her natural ability to connect and inspire others. After the session, he approached Emma with pride evident in his voice, remarking gently, "Watching you now, it's hard to imagine you were ever made to feel small. You've truly found your calling." Emma smiled appreciatively, reflecting on Bennett's words as she prepared to leave the building later that evening. As she stepped outside, she was startled to see a familiar figure pacing anxiously by the entrance, Charles Harrington. Her heartbeat quickened slightly, unsure of his intentions after the humiliating incident weeks before. Cautiously approaching, Emma steeled herself, her newfound confidence keeping her steady. Harrington, visibly uncomfortable, cleared his throat and began awkwardly, "Miss Thompson, I realize it might seem inappropriate, but I've come to offer my sincere apologies. My behavior toward you that evening was utterly unacceptable." Emma felt a surprising sense of calm, recognizing genuine remorse in his eyes, though his voice still held traces of embarrassment. She listened silently as he continued. "That incident showed me the worst parts of myself. I'm deeply ashamed and wanted to tell you in person how sorry I truly am." Emma considered Harrington carefully, recognizing the courage it must have taken for him, a man once so arrogant, to humble himself like this. Finally, after a thoughtful pause, she replied softly, "I appreciate your apology, Mr. Harrington. What happened was painful, but it pushed me toward opportunities I never thought possible." Harrington nodded slowly, visibly relieved at her graceful response. But Emma wasn't finished. Meeting his gaze with gentle determination, she continued, "Perhaps what happened can help both of us move forward, reminding you to treat others kindly, regardless of their status, and reminding me that even the darkest moments can lead to something meaningful." Harrington sighed deeply, clearly moved by her wisdom and compassion. "You're right. I've learned a valuable lesson thanks to your strength. Please know that you've gained my deepest respect." As Harrington walked away into the fading evening light, Emma stood thoughtfully, absorbing the unexpected encounter. Despite her initial nervousness, confronting Harrington had granted her a sense of closure she'd not realized she needed. Returning home that night, Emma reflected on the incredible journey she'd experienced, from humiliation and despair to profound personal and professional growth. Her phone buzzed gently, drawing her attention. A message from Bennett, brief yet heartfelt. "Heard about your conversation today. Proud of the leader you've become." Smiling warmly, Emma set down her phone, finally realizing that the painful moment she'd once viewed as a disaster had become her greatest source of strength and transformation. Now, her mission was clear: to ensure that respect and empathy guided every action, creating a world where no one ever felt invisible again. Months passed quickly, and Emma became an integral part of Bennett Enterprises, admired by colleagues and revered by the community. Her initiatives promoting empathy and respect brought tangible changes to workplaces across the city. Yet amidst her success, Emma remained humble, always mindful of her beginnings. Inspired by Bennett's example, she launched a new outreach project aimed at educating local businesses about dignity and fairness. Soon, her voice resonated beyond company walls, reaching public forums and even catching media attention. Yet, despite these achievements, Emma often paused to reflect on how a single humiliating moment had reshaped her destiny, reminding her continually that adversity could hold profound opportunities within its grasp. One crisp autumn evening, Bennett invited Emma to speak at a prestigious charity gala, her largest audience yet. Stepping onto the brightly lit stage, Emma felt a rush of emotion, recognizing influential faces from around the city, including, unexpectedly, Charles Harrington seated respectfully near the front. Gathering her thoughts, Emma spoke candidly about the power of compassion, sharing the transformative story of her own journey. The captivated audience listened attentively, moved by her sincerity and inspired by her wisdom. As Emma concluded, applause erupted throughout the grand hall, but her attention shifted to Harrington, who stood clapping earnestly, admiration clearly evident on his face, a symbolic reconciliation that filled her with immense gratitude and fulfillment. After the gala, Harrington approached Emma warmly, his voice humble and appreciative. "Your words tonight resonated deeply. Thank you for showing me, and so many others, the importance of empathy and humility." Emma smiled gently, replying with sincerity, "I'm glad my story could inspire. We're all capable of change, and that's the beauty of second chances." Harrington nodded thoughtfully, extending his hand in genuine friendship. Emma accepted his gesture, sensing that their encounter had truly come full circle. Nearby, Bennett quietly observed the meaningful exchange, proud that his instinctive decision months earlier had sparked such a profound ripple effect, impacting not just Emma's life, but countless others who now benefited from her advocacy and courage. Late that night, Emma stood quietly in the empty gala hall, the remnants of celebration slowly being cleared away. Reflecting on everything she'd overcome, she realized that every hardship, humiliation, and challenge had prepared her for this exact moment. Bennett, noticing her contemplative expression, approached softly, asking gently, "Did you ever imagine you'd inspire so many?" Emma turned, her eyes glistening with quiet emotion. "Never. I used to think I was invisible, but now I realize it wasn't about others seeing me, it was about seeing myself clearly." Bennett smiled warmly, understanding completely, replying with genuine admiration, "And now everyone else sees it too. You've truly become the embodiment of the respect and dignity you advocate." As Emma left the venue, walking beneath the gentle glow of streetlights, her heart felt lighter than ever before. Her journey had started from a single, deeply painful moment, yet had blossomed into a powerful purpose. Pulling out Bennett's original business card, now slightly worn from handling, Emma paused, tracing the embossed letters with gratitude. She knew this card symbolized much more than an opportunity. It represented hope, transformation, and the profound truth that respect could bridge any divide. Confidently tucking the card back into her pocket, she moved forward, knowing her mission had only just begun. From this night onward, Emma was determined to illuminate the path for others, proving that dignity and empathy could truly reshape lives, one powerful moment at a time. The following Monday morning, Emma arrived early at Bennett Enterprises. She unlocked the conference room door and carefully mounted her new Dignity First presentation on the whiteboard. Within 15 minutes, senior executives gathered, and Emma took a deep breath before announcing, "Today I will demonstrate how prioritizing respect among colleagues and clients has increased performance and loyalty by 30%. As she guided them through each slide with clarity and conviction, she noticed smiles of approval spreading across the room. When questions followed, she answered confidently, drawing on real-world examples and data. Afterward, she stepped out to find the conference room table covered in handwritten thank you notes signed by every attendee, each one expressing gratitude for reminding them what truly matters. During her lunch break, Emma retreated to the rooftop lounge to reflect. She settled into a plush armchair and opened her ever-present photo album, flipping past pictures of that humiliating restaurant incident to reveal snapshots from last week's Respect at Work conference, where she'd received a standing ovation. Memories of her past self, a nervous, overlooked waitress, felt distant as she lingered on the image of herself confidently addressing thousands. Closing the album, she whispered to herself how far she had come. Just then, Alexander Bennett appeared at the lounge entrance, nodding at her warm smile before saying softly, "Beautiful memories." Emma returned the nod with equal warmth, replying, "All thanks to you." That afternoon, Emma was invited to speak at the city's cultural center on corporate empathy. Backstage, a young woman approached to whisper, "I just wanted you to know you're my role model." Emma squeezed her hand and stepped onto the spotlighted stage. As the audience of business leaders and community members leaned forward, she launched into her message, "Each one of us has the power to change someone else's story." She punctuated her speech with personal anecdotes, drawing frequent nods and tears from the crowd. In the wings, Bennett watched silently, pride in his eyes. Afterward, he met her backstage and said, "Nobody could have delivered that better than you," to which Emma, breathless with emotion, replied, "You believed in me first." Returning to her desk that evening, Emma's phone buzzed. Mentor Emily Carter had texted, "Congratulations! Would you host a national TV segment on workplace respect?" Joy and nervousness swept through her. She typed, "Thank you. Let's discuss details," and then stared at her Bennett business card, thinking, every journey begins with a single moment. She opened her laptop and began updating her resume, preparing for this new opportunity to share her mission on an even broader platform. The next day was hectic. Emma launched her internal Respect First campaign, distributing branded T-shirts, notebooks, and lapel pins. She held one-on-one meetings with team leaders to gather feedback. Then her phone rang urgently. Colleagues had used disrespectful language in an internal chat, creating a PR risk. Emma sprang into action, convening an emergency mediation meeting. She facilitated honest conversation, clarified misunderstandings, and swiftly enrolled the team in an intensive empathy training workshop. By day's end, the tension had dissolved and the teams pledged renewed mutual respect. That weekend, Emma volunteered in underserved neighborhoods, hosting interactive Culture of Respect workshops at a local community center. Attendees ranged from unemployed youth to stay-at-home parents. When an electrical technician stood to say he wanted to implement these ideas back at his company, Emma felt tears of pride fill her eyes. She spread out flip charts and declared, "Every step counts," then closed the session by inviting participants to nominate their own respect champions, ensuring the movement would grow beyond that room. On a rainy autumn afternoon, Emma peered out from the office balcony as raindrops traced patterns on the glass. Her phone rang. It was Bennett with breathtaking news. "A major donor wants to invest $1 million in our Respect initiative." Heart pounding, Emma rushed downstairs and joined Bennett for an impromptu video call with the benefactor. She presented the project's impact metrics and expansion plans. When the donor enthusiastically approved, the office echoed with celebration. Emma wept quietly at her desk, grateful that respect had become more than a slogan. The following morning, Emma sat in a radio studio for her segment, Dignity Hour. The host asked, "Could world leaders learn from your approach?" Emma smiled into the mic. "Respect isn't just a habit. It begins in the heart and radiates outward." Calls flooded in from listeners sharing personal stories of newfound workplace harmony. At the end of the live broadcast, the host invited her to share a final thought. Emma closed her eyes briefly, then said, "Listen to that inner voice. Real change starts there." Mid-month, Emma hosted a private dinner at her home for former neighbors and friends. She walked in to find a custom cake reading, "To Emma, with gratitude." As applause erupted, she felt waves of emotion when 3 acquaintances from the restaurant episode raised their glasses in silent salute. Emma, voice shaking, said, "Without you, I wouldn't be here." And the night transformed her living room into a humble gallery of success snapshots, each one a reminder of how far she had come. At month's end, Emma traveled to a prestigious university to accept the Inspirational Woman Leader Award before a packed auditorium. On stage, she declared, "I was once an invisible waitress. Today, I stand here as proof that respect and perseverance can transform lives." Thunderous applause followed, and as she accepted the golden trophy, her mind flashed back to that painful restaurant night, now reframed as the genesis of her purpose. Driving back from the ceremony, Emma's phone pinged. A text from Charles Harrington. "Would you consult for my company on customer experience respect training?" Surprised but intrigued, she texted back, "Yes, let's talk." Moments later, Bennett called to say he'd connected them. Emma smiled, recalling how her humiliation had set in motion not just her own transformation, but now an entire network of respect culture consultations. In the first week of the new month, Emma and Bennett launched Respect Schools, a 10-week curriculum brought to elementary schools across the city. On the inaugural day, Emma sat cross-legged with a class of third graders, guiding them through eye contact respect exercises. On Friday, the children performed a self-composed respect pledge song. Emma, tears in her eyes, led the final chorus, knowing these seeds would grow into a more empathetic next generation. Finally, on the one-year anniversary of her hire date, Emma found a small orange envelope on her desk marked only with the name of the restaurant she'd once served. Inside lay a handwritten letter of gratitude from former patrons and staff, each signature a testament to how her resilience had taught them about kindness. Cradling the worn letter, Emma whispered to herself, "Every moment holds the chance to change another's life," and walked into the late afternoon sunlight, ready to carry on her mission. The evening sun filtered through the windows of Emma's new city center apartment, a far cry from the cramped studio she once called home. She sat at her kitchen table, reviewing an email from the Ministry of Labor, inviting her to consult on a nationwide Respect in the Workplace campaign. The magnitude of the moment struck her. Her journey had gone from private humiliation to public advocacy, from lonely self-doubt to a recognized voice of hope. As she prepared her notes, her phone buzzed with messages from old restaurant colleagues and new corporate partners alike, all eager for her guidance. In that instant, Emma realized that her personal story had become a beacon, lighting the path for thousands. She looked out at the bustling city below, heart pounding with anticipation, feeling the weight and privilege of being a catalyst for change. The next day, Emma stood before a packed auditorium of policymakers and business leaders, a giant screen behind her projecting the campaign's motto, "Dignity first, progress follows." She began her keynote, weaving her story into a powerful call for action, describing not only her own transformation, but the ripple effect it created across organizations, families, and communities. The audience listened in rapt attention, many visibly moved. As she closed, Emma shared a final challenge. "Let us be remembered not for the power we wield, but for the respect we give." Applause thundered through the room, and as Emma stepped off stage, several officials approached her to pledge real support. Walking through the corridors afterward, she felt an overwhelming sense of purpose. Her hardships had been transformed into the foundation for a lasting legacy. After her keynote, Emma was ushered into a quiet lounge where a prominent journalist from a national paper requested an in-depth interview. As cameras and recorders rolled, Emma recounted her earliest struggles, the fear of failure, the sting of public humiliation, and the moments she nearly gave up. But she didn't just dwell on pain. She painted a vivid picture of what happened next: colleagues reaching out with support, a stranger's unexpected act of kindness, and the sense of possibility that returned with each step forward. As she spoke, Emma saw the journalist's eyes moisten, and she knew her message was connecting. When the article was published the next morning, her inbox overflowed with messages, some from victims of workplace bullying, others from executives wanting to reshape their company culture. Emma replied to each with encouragement, offering practical advice and empathy. She knew that real change began with these individual conversations. Days turned into weeks as Emma's schedule became a blur of flights, hotel rooms, and conference stages. In every city, she was greeted by teams eager to learn her methods and invite her into their worlds. One evening, after a particularly exhausting seminar, Emma returned to her hotel and found an envelope slipped under her door. Inside was a handwritten letter from a young waitress named Sophie, who described how she'd watched Emma's original story online. Sophie wrote about enduring humiliation at her own job, about the nights she cried in the storage room, and about the moment Emma's courage had inspired her to stand up for herself and others. Emma sat on the edge of her bed, eyes stinging with tears as she read the final line, "Your story saved me." She realized her journey had not only changed her own life, but was now echoing in the hearts of strangers she might never meet. The following week, Emma returned to her office to discover that Bennett had organized a surprise gathering. The room was filled with colleagues, past mentors, and even her family, faces old and new, all smiling with genuine pride. On a large screen, A montage played of people from different backgrounds sharing short video messages. A hospital nurse in uniform, a blue-collar worker from a factory floor, a school principal, even a few high-profile CEOs, all recounting how Emma's example had led them to institute new policies, mend broken relationships, or simply stand up for someone overlooked. Emma felt her breath catch as she listened to the ways her single act of courage had multiplied across the country. Bennett took the floor to announce a new initiative in Emma's name, a leadership scholarship for young women entering the workforce, fully funded and supported by the company. Emma stood speechless, overwhelmed by the tangible impact of her story. One crisp autumn morning, Emma received an official invitation to address the United Nations Human Rights Council as part of an international forum on dignity in the workplace. The magnitude of this moment wasn't lost on her. She reflected on the waitress she once was, trembling under the weight of someone else's cruelty and how far she'd come. As she prepared her speech, Emma decided to forgo statistics and instead focus on the power of personal connection. On stage, her voice was steady as she told the room full of ambassadors and world leaders about Sophie's letter, about the child with the superhero drawing, and about the ordinary workers whose lives were transformed by simple acts of respect. Her message was clear. Dignity is not a privilege. It's a right we must defend for everyone, everywhere, every day. The hall erupted in a standing ovation, and as Emma stepped down, she felt the world itself had shifted a little closer to kindness. After the summit, Emma found herself at the center of a whirlwind of international attention. She was contacted by organizations in Europe, Asia, and Africa, each wanting her guidance on shaping more respectful and compassionate work cultures. But she was careful not to let the attention distract her from the individual stories that had always mattered most. On a late-night call with a grassroots group in Nairobi, she listened as a young activist described efforts to protect garment workers from abuse and exploitation. Emma offered practical tools for training and advocacy, drawing on lessons learned through her own transformation. In the quiet moments after such calls, she'd sit by her window, thinking about how the fight for dignity played out in countless languages and lives. Her mission, she realized, was no longer just national but truly global, and with each connection, her hope for lasting change deepened. Months passed, and Emma's efforts began to plant seeds of change in unexpected places. She was asked to consult for a coalition of tech companies struggling to address issues of workplace harassment in rapidly expanding offices. Emma gathered employees at every level, coders, managers, executives, into intimate workshops where stories could be safely shared. She invited those who once felt invisible to describe their daily realities, while leaders practiced listening and accountability. Skeptics became supporters as small but meaningful changes took root. Anonymous feedback tools were implemented. Mentorship programs blossomed, and conflicts were mediated with empathy instead of fear. At the end of each workshop, Emma asked participants to write one promise on a card. How will you make work safer for someone else? As the cards accumulated in a glass jar on her desk, Emma felt the tangible weight of transformation. 1,000 intentions building a new culture from the ground up. As winter set in, Emma was invited back to her hometown to deliver a commencement speech at her former high school. Walking the familiar corridors, she was struck by how much and how little had changed. The gymnasium was packed with graduates, teachers, and families. Among them, Emma recognized faces from her past, some who remembered her struggles as a shy teenager. On stage, she spoke candidly about her journey, about failing and starting over, and about the day she realized respect must begin from within. Every voice matters, she told the students. You have the power to create safe spaces for others by the way you listen, include, and support those around you. If you witness injustice, don't be silent. If you need help, don't be ashamed to ask. As she left the stage, dozens of students lined up to shake her hand, some with tears in their eyes, thanking her for giving them hope and courage for the future. That night, Emma sat at her old bedroom window, looking out at the quiet town below, reflecting on the remarkable path her life had taken. The letters, the faces, the stories, all of it formed a tapestry far richer than she had ever imagined possible. She realized that while her journey had started with one painful act of humiliation, it had blossomed into a movement that touched thousands. Emma knew there would still be challenges ahead, setbacks and heartbreaks to weather, but she felt prepared to meet them. Her mission was clear and enduring: to keep showing up, to keep listening, to keep reminding others, and herself, that dignity, kindness, and respect were not just ideals, but daily choices. As the first snow began to fall, Emma whispered a quiet promise into the night. "I will never let anyone feel invisible, not if I can help it." And with that, she closed her eyes, heart full, knowing her story was only just beginning.